and I'm going to talk to you about the PIAT. It's a device sort of made to replace the boys' anti-tank rifle. It's first introduced in 1943 and sort of left service in the 1950s. It's a spring-loaded weapon, was a spigot mortar with a large spring from basically here to here, with a large rod that would fire through and launching the projectile. It was a two-man crew, so one guy would carry this, one guy would carry the cardboard tubes, which are over here, which carries 3 bombs inside, which are one of these, which are inside here, this way around. And yeah, so the one guy would carry this and move it to where he wants to set it up. He'd have to move the sights up. The second guy would then come along, remove the cork from inside here, put it to one side. You would then load the bomb through here and then push it in and lock it in. And it could only be fired really from the ground, as with the recoil and the weight, it's 15 kilograms. So not really easy to be carried and fired, and with the amount of recoil, it's best from the prone position. So yeah, once you're ready, you just line up your sights with your range, which are you've got 50, 80 and 110. You'd only really get about 100 yards. It's not going to fire that far. As I say, it's not rocket propelled, it's just from the initial spring. And and you'd pull the trigger. The rod would be fired out through here into the back of the bomb. There's a small percussion cap that would fly out. The percussion cap would then send the rod back in and recharge the weapon. So you'd only have to charge it the once, well, ideally. But it's not just an anti-tank weapon. As I say, it's a spigot mortar, so you can adjust the height. All that. That will lift up. Just this sight here, so you can set your range. You've got a level gauge here, so you adjust it till that's level. You've got the white line, which is the indirect fire line, so you point that line where you want it to go, and you just pull the trigger, and it will fire. And yeah, that was how it was used.
It did have one big advantage, didn't it? That it could actually be fired from inside buildings, unlike the Panzerfaust, the Panzerschreck, the Bazooka.
Yeah, so as it's spring loaded, there's no backblast, and with the backblast you've got the smoke, which kind of gives away your position. With that, there's no smoke and pretty much next to no sound. It was just a thump really from the spring. Really, that was the only sound. And with it being sort of recharging after it's loaded, so once that one's gone, the guy would be ready with the next one, straight in, and it would go again. So you could fire it 3 times really. You've got 3 bombs with you, and you could fire it 3 times. So it's a lot quicker loading than sort of the counterparts.
And how much ammunition would usually be carried with one of these?
So from what I've seen, you would only have the 3. So you just carry the cardboard carriers, the tube carriers, and that's all I've really seen is one. I know that the Airborne did experiment with a backpack, really, so it could be strapped to your back, but it was only a prototype and it never saw service.
And what was the scale of issue of these?
What, sorry?
The scale of issue, how commonly were they issued?
Because I'm not sure how many there were between sort of a section. I'm not sure how many
It was platoon level weapon, wasn't it? Was it 1 per platoon?
I can't.
That's fine. I can check that when we can add that.
Yeah. I have got a book which has all the information, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of information on the weapon.
And usually that tells you what they should have done, as opposed to what they did.
Yeah. Well, that's so on the weapon you've got. I'll turn it around. Here you've got 2 sling points, and it would then sort of be worn as a bag, really. So you put them over both But the problem is you have a sack on, so you couldn't wear it as a bag. So quite often I've seen pictures where they just have the one sling, but I've also seen it just carried up on their shoulder. They walk around with it on the shoulder. It's I suppose it's a lot easier to get it down when you want to trying to get this off your shoulder and catch it on everything. So it's a lot easier to just get off and put down and ready to go.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen many photos of them with the double straps.
No, I've just seen an early picture, because you've got this monopod, but there was an A-frame monopod. So it was a very early thing that never really saw much. They changed it to this, and as I say, I think it was a Canadian soldier with it, and he had the A-frame monopod and 2 straps. But yeah, I only really see 1 strap. So yeah, and you'd have to help with the recoil. There's a rubber pad in the back to try and cushion the blow, but I don't think there's really much to do. It was a horrible thing to use, and I believe the veteran said you'd deserve the Victoria Cross just for firing it.
Well, there was Major Kane, wasn't there, won the Victoria Cross at Arnhem. Was it 2 Tigers he knocked out with it?
I think there was a lot more. It was Tigers, Stugs, there was a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a very good example. I like the one where he was sort of hiding behind the building and he shot, but it just fell short. The Tiger shot but missed him as well, but when it shot, threw up a load of smoke and a load of dust, and in all of that he walked out in front of it, laid down and waited for the smoke to clear. It cleared, and then he shot, and he took out the tracks, and the men that he was with, they saw him in the road, and they thought that was it, he's dead. You know, how are you going to lay down in front of a tiger and survive? But he managed to, and carried on going, and yeah, well, he blinded himself with one of these. He was sort of stepping out from the buildings and firing, but he pulled the trigger too quickly, and he clipped the building, and it went off, and his face went black with just the soot, and they said you could see little red spots on his face was where the shrapnel went in, and it blinded him. So they took him back to the first aid post, and after a little while his vision came back, got up, grabbed a pit and went out again. So for a lot of guys that would have been the end of the battle. That would have been it, but for him, he wasn't done. And I like the fact that when they were retreating and going over the Rhine, he stopped and found himself a razor and a mirror and had a shave before he crossed, because he was an officer. So you've got to be be well dressed as an officer, even though his trousers were shredded, his eardrums were burst, and his face was bleeding, and still managed to have a shave.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that.
That's all right.
Well done.